Hey guys, Mike here. Welcome back to another video on the channel. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how I made these. These basically, well, everyone calls them Gullwing Windows. I think that's a really strange name. I was just calling them access windows, but from looking online, it seems like they're called Gullwing Windows. But originally, I removed my windows and made this aluminium panel, which just had a Rotopax mount on it, and I put that back in with the normal window seal. So you can see the pictures here, it's just set back in place like the window would be, and it can hold a Rotopax. And when I went camping, it was just really useful for just having water basically outside the vehicle. But first of all, I want to see whether they actually work, and then we can get into building them and I can show you the materials that I've used and everything else. It seals pretty good along the top with this seal. As it closes, you can kind of see it locking in real nice. And I haven't installed the cam locks yet, so there'll be a cam lock just here and another one in this corner. So as you close it, it's going to kind of push it in and you shouldn't be able to see daylight anymore. So it is actually sealing up perfectly. Nothing's coming through. If I let up a bit, there you go, all the water's come through. But yeah, they work. I guess if there's an internal box in there, the water's just going to splash along the bottom of the aluminium box, and you can kind of factor that in and just have a rag in there, mop it up if you really care, whatever. But anyway, let's get to building these, but I'm going to show you the other side first. So to make this tutorial a little bit better, I'm going to put a window in to show you how to take it out. It's really simple, but because I've taken mine out quite a few times, it's going to look a lot easier for me than it will be for you, because they kind of like bond in there a little bit. But if you're going to put the aluminium panel back in after you've made it and not do a gullwing window, you can just kind of slot the seal back in place, and you want some crisscrossed string through the seal all the way around going over itself, and you can put that on the inside. I can just use my finger and work the seal on. It's pretty simple really. You start hitting it a bit, it starts to kind of find its place. It's just the top or the bottom, whichever kind of area you start, that'll be the trickiest bit. And do the same that, so I'll get that out of the way. Chop that over there. There we go. I use WD-40 by the way. You can use soapy water. So start pulling that. And this is kind of the important bit. You need to apply pressure the other side. When you put this in, I usually bang like that. You can kind of work that out. Obviously a two-man job would be cool, because then someone else can push really hard the other side. And obviously you're in. So that's like the whole window basically in. This is just going to help to see it a bit better. In my case, I'm just going to pull that totally out because I set the bottom in first, and that's the window in. So it doesn't really matter whether you're putting a piece of glass in or you're putting in an aluminium panel like that. It's gonna go in the same way. So if you go for the option of making a platform, a mounting platform that's fixed, this will keep it in. And although it looked really easy to put in, when it's been in there a while, obviously it's going to kind of bind and set in place. But definitely use plastic trim tools, not screwdrivers, in my opinion. All I would say is just make sure the back is like shiny and the edges are not painted, so you get kind of like a seal. But let's take this window out. So you'll be in this position first off where I am, but you won't be as lucky as I am to have just had WD-40 squirted all over the seal to make it come out super easy. So I'm going to be able to get this out of my hands and no tools at all. But in your case, get the plastic trim tool, which I don't have. We've actually got them at work, but I don't have one here at home, ironically. And you want to start at a corner and work your way down to about there. So what you want to do is wedge the screwdriver in here and basically start bending the seal round like that. You might break a window, and then you're going to start working it off like this. You might even be able to do it with your hands, but kind of doubt it if you've never taken it out before. And obviously if you don't want the window, you can just smash it with a hammer and pull it out. My advice would be there not to start yanking on it though. You know, go to the other corner, kind of do the same thing. Because it's the corners where it really wants to bite. There it is, you know. I mean, yeah, obviously it looked really easy because I've only just put it in and it's lubricated. Once you've got your window out, you can take the rubber edging and keep that because it's actually kind of valuable, and they're quite expensive to buy second hand. You might change your mind. But you're going to want to trace this out onto a piece of aluminium. The way I did it really was I never measured anything out basically. I just traced it out, and all I did was angle the marker out at the top and the bottom, just to make up for the 10mm height difference in this curve at the side there. So the next step is obviously to cut this shape out. I'm not going to do that because I need this piece of checker plate, and I don't want to make a third window because it's going to be kind of useless for me. I got this piece of checker plate cut for something specific, but I'm still going to show you the principles of how to do it and how to bend it. It's just I'm working with a different shaped piece of rectangular material than you will be, but the principles are all still the same. And I've made a jig here for bending the aluminium, just 2 planks of wood with some smaller bits in between. The reason I've used wood on the bottom is because it's softer and it will basically give you less of an obvious bend in the aluminium. You can even go one step further and actually make a curved edge on that, quite a pronounced curve edge, and then when you bend the aluminium, you know, it's going to look even better, and it kind of allows you to adjust where you're going to put the bend. So if we take the aluminium, this is 4mm thick aluminium, and you know, you can literally put a bend in it just with your body weight. It's really not that strong. But if you do know someone who can bend metals and has that kind of equipment, obviously you can just take it to them. But it's such an easy job to do, to put the bend in this. I think it's one of the questions I get asked the most is, how do you bend the aluminium? Just get some planks of wood and some string if you really want to, and just kind of bunch that up. And then it just allows you to apply bends even easier in different places. But the bend is roughly in the middle. You just got to obviously move it in and out of the jig to kind of influence where exactly you want that bend to be. And you know, it's just something you got to practice with. What I do is get some scrap, just practice first, and then cut your windows out and give it a go. And if you overbend them, put it on a flat floor, stand on it, take the exaggeration out of the bend and redo it, and you know, it's not too bad really. So this is really what you're going to need to do the Gullwing windows. Obviously we covered the aluminium panel. I've obviously made mine a long time ago. It's been wrapped aligned, and that's just a Rotopax mount for the water bottle. That comes with the Rotopax set, and you just drill the window and you bolt it on and you're done. So there's not really much I can say about that. But you're going to need some weather strip to go on the edge of this panel here. In my case, I picked some up that's 25mm wide and 15mm high, and it's the stuff with obviously the metal inside. If you go too big with this, you struggle on these corners and you get a lot of kinking and it doesn't look so good. But the idea with the metal is you can actually then push that in and tap it in with a rubber mallet. It looks a little bit cleaner. You'll need some box section too to create the brackets on the inside of the body of the vehicle for the hinges. I've gone with 40 by 80mm. This is all I could find really. It's just some scrap. The hinge is the most important thing. I'm going with an internal hinge setup, and you can go external with the hinges, but I didn't want to drill and, you know, use those kind of nutserts and stuff in the body of the vehicle. I'm just kind of mindful about corrosion and the climate I live in, and drilling into the outside of the vehicle for me is just not a thing I like doing too much. So I've gone with internal hinges. All of this is in the description, by the way. So you're going to need 2 hinges to do this for each window. You can go with 3 if you want, but I'm using 2. So let's get started. So I'm going to make the brackets first off. We'll start with this side here, since there's a little bit more material. Just going to put that on the chop saw and cut out 2 of those. Once you've got them deburred, you can basically put the hinge on. Just sit that there and mark that up. I'm using M6, I'm going to drill this out to 6.5, and when I'm drilling this corner here I'm always angling the drill in, just so I don't take away too much of this outer edge, but you can obviously get the correct bolt size if you really want to. So now that everything's drilled, we just bolt these straight on. As I said, I'm only using 2. I think that's pretty secure anyway. Absolutely no movement, and I think those 2 M6s are fine. So that's going to be sat in there, welded into the body, and the window can do that. And that's basically it. But yeah, you can get a bigger piece of box section. Comment section. Alright, I remember blah 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 when off-roading. Mike, when are you doing more bushcraft videos? Even though you filmed bushcraft for 10 years and I don't care about your enjoyment, can you do that for me? So now we just got to put this edging strip on. I need to know where the bottom of the window is. I don't know. That's the bottom, isn't it? Yeah, so it's going to go like that, somewhere in the middle. Start working this on. When you get to the corners, it's good to like pull the weather strip real tight, like this, kind of anchor it on the other corner and pull it super tight, and then push that bit down near that corner, and then you'll generally get a bit of a better angle there, rather than it kind of sticking out a bit like this, because it doesn't like to go around such steep corners. So it's looking better already now with that edging on it. It looks a little bit more nice, breaks it up from the rest of the vehicle if you've got a lot of Raptor liner like me, and you need something kind of just to cut the lines up. I did cut it like an idiot at the bottom, but I do have a lot more of this, so I'm gonna obviously swap that out and do a better job of cutting it in a little while. But for the time being, this is fine, and now we need to get this in place. So what you want to do now is set the window in place just by setting it down like that. The rubber should keep it in place, but you can see that I've removed 2 of the bolts from the Rotopax in my case. I put a bit of paracord through there, and if you have a look the other side, I've got a ratchet strap around the paracord, and it's just to stop it falling out. But what we're actually going to do is ratchet strap the window firmly in place like that, so we don't need somebody pushing this side. So the window's in place, and this should keep it there. I haven't ratcheted it in so much that it's bending the window or crushing the seals to the point where it can't be manipulated. It's just nice and firm really, so we can connect up our hinges, and basically we know it's always going to close to this position, which is what we want. You can see I've put some stiffeners in, really some platforms to weld on, and that's because I'm taking a slightly different approach, mainly because the first side I did went horribly wrong and I ended up with this left, and I wanted to match it up, so I got my dimensions right this side. But you can take a better approach, and I'll explain that now. So you saw that little bit of metal I've welded in there like a frame stiffener. That's there for good reason. The inside looks a little bit like this. So you've got like a piece of channel there, that comes down to the lip which forms the channel, that goes up there. You've got like a drip rail there, and then the roof comes round, and that's kind of what it looks like on the inside. And then your rubber list or your rubber weather strip will go into here, so that's where your window is. So window here like that, you know, and then the rest of it down there. I've obviously welded a little bit just in here like that to act as like a stiffener, and there's a reason for that, and that's because the first time round I made a real hash of the job. I butchered it. It looked terrible. I was just working with scrap. It was uncharted territory for me. But once I figured out how I wanted it all to be, I chopped it all out and I redid it this way. And this was a better piece of scrap metal that I had lying around. Now ideally what you want is a piece, well, I said this was 80 by 40. Let's say you had 70 by 40, like that, instead of 80 by 40. So really what you want to be doing is taking away about, if you had 70 by 40, let's say, you want to take away 20 millimeters out of there, like that, and then you want to bend that down, and you'll probably have to bend one of these sides in a little bit, and then you weld those two together. You end up with a bracket like that, which is 70mm there, 40mm there, and 50mm there. That is the perfect size bracket that you need for just putting in here for this mod I'm doing. So the reason I've got that top bit, that frame stiffener, is because I'm having to cut away about this much. So all that's going to go, all this here, which would simulate basically the 70 by 40 bit of box section I could have ideally had, and then that frame stiffener in there forms the lid for me that goes on the top of that and makes the whole thing kind of more structural, because this sheet metal is super thin. You kind of need at least something connected in a number of contact points. But the reality is you could use U-channel or some sort of like V-bar that you opened a bit or whatever. You know, you could do anything, and it could be nut-serted there, and you could have a strip of it all the way along, you know, like this. Basically, terrible drawing, but you could nut-sert it all the way along. So if you don't have access to a welder, you don't necessarily need one for this. It just makes connecting metal together much lazier. Just going to weld this first peg in, which I want kind of like that. Just going to mark the bolt holes, so when we take this off we can obviously drill it. But you know what, I forgot to turn the gas on. Back out we go! That's the most hideous welding I've ever done, and I can't show you that. I can't show you that. That is, it's truly diabolical. But you know what, it's not coming off. So window off now. Just going to mark the holes, get everything marked in position. No battery, wicked. Should be all done. Alright, so here we go. This is the finished product, all working well. Hinges are looking okay, and they're not too intrusive, so we've still got quite a lot of accessibility here. When we build the box sort of further behind in another episode, it'll probably be about that deep, you know, let's say sort of 4 or 5 inches deep. You know, you're still going to have an ability to put stuff in without hinges getting in the way. That's probably one disadvantage of doing it this way. We're using these internal cabinet hinges, you know, you do lose space up here. But I know one big question from everyone will be, why did you have it opening upward and not opening downward like a platform? And my reasoning for doing that was more just my preferences of not really being bothered for having this thing fold down and kind of make me have to stand further out of the vehicle or go in from the side. I'm building a drawer system and it's going to have a fold out table, so I'm quite happy for this to open and just be like this. For example, make sure that doesn't drop on my head, and just have a box inside and just have that as kind of like a small shelf halfway up. So, you know, maybe you've got some equipment in here like recovery gear, as we said. I mean, I've got all my electronics down here. The other side I've got like the fire extinguisher and some other gear. And also, if you look into here, I'm not really interested in like butchering all of this stuff I've built a while ago just to make this fold down, and I just prefer it being over my head, where it can stay open in the snow or the rain and not really have to worry about it too much. And it's just personal preference. So obviously you can make it fold down if you want, if you require another platform. In my case, I'm not too bothered about it. But let's unbolt it, let's put some foam on it. So I've got some 1 centimetre thick foam, just like a nice rubberized foam. Just going to draw around it. This is the original window, obviously, so it's a pretty good template. And obviously we don't want to put foam around the whole thing straight to the edge, because you know, we've got the weather strip, so we're going to need to measure in about 1 centimetre on each side, draw a line basically, and then cut on the inside of that line, just so we have something that sits in between the weather stripping. With regards to this foam, it gives the weather stripping a bit of support and actually gives you a better seal as well. I found that on the other side. But just to figure out where I'm making the hole, I'm just doing this somewhere like that. It's really just to stop frosting this, and that's the way it's going to be, but we have to glue it on. So I'm going to just leave it like that. I'm going to use seam sealer like I did before, just glue it all on, but I just got to take these Rotopax nuts off so it can be glued flat there, and then make holes for the bolts to go through. So this is the finished product with the window on, minus the cam locks, which still haven't arrived at this point in time, so I might just release this video, do the cam locks later if people are interested to see how that system works. Maybe I'll do those cam locks when I build the box at the back, and it can be part 2. But this seems to go on okay, and it just doesn't clear this little cap so good, so I might have to flatten that down and then just paint it or something. But all in all, it still works, it still locks on. But it opens to about there. That's touching the drip rail now, so I'm probably going to back it down a little bit to there. I mean, I'm pretty short really, I'm 5'9", so pretty standard issue, and that seems to work okay. So yeah, it's one of the reasons why I didn't want it to open down as well, because of this and clearing here, and you know, some other sort of things that just didn't work out too well with the Rotopax on. But I think it's pretty good. I think the foam tidies it up a bit now, you can see that, and maybe I can have some things stored on here, like cutlery, and maybe have a cook kit inside there with some other stuff, and you know, just see how it goes. I guess I just got to figure it out really. I haven't gotten to the inside yet. I still need to do the drawer system. I still need to decide how I want the drawer systems to be, whether I want a drawer system. You know, we want to streamline it a little bit more, but still keep it kind of usable as an everyday vehicle in some respects, but it's kind of got out the realms of that with 8 inches of lift and big tyres and everything else. It's kind of, you know, it's not really an everyday vehicle anymore. But you know, like a lot of my videos, this isn't a tutorial, although it is named one. It's more of a guide. You can see I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. I could have done things a lot better. The bracketry on the inside kind of looks not so great, although in my case it will be covered up, but we'll come to that when I do the interior. And you know, you can do a better job than this, really. I've used basic materials, some 4mm aluminium, some cheap weather strip, some foam, some M6s, and the hinges are probably the most complex part of the whole thing. And just a bit of box section, and you've got some nice Gullwing Windows, as they call them. And I think it's pretty cool. You know, I've always wanted something like this, and never thought it was possible. Actually, I was thought, oh, that's going to be way too difficult. But when I saw some other people do it online, I thought, oh, I'm going to give it a go. So there we go, nearly there, another job done. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video anyway. If you've got any questions, write them below. You know, I'll put some links to other videos down in the description to people who have done different kind of mods with these windows, so you can have a look through them and get an idea of what you want to do. You might not necessarily like this or want to do it, especially if you live somewhere where it's, you know, break-ins are common. This is going to be super easy to break into the window, break into the back of the vehicle, you know, because you can just pry in through the weather strip, just bend and manipulate all this out and just trash it and get in. So that's another thing you've got to think about, really. But I've talked enough, as per usual. In the next video, going to be doing the turbo manifold and getting the new turbo on, getting this thing running again, and then get the roof rack on, and then basically it's a fully drivable vehicle again. And I'm going to reverse it in the garage and then begin on the draw system and the camp gear. So thanks for watching. See you again real soon.